Welcome back to the Fit Family Podcast. Welcome, Dan.
Hello.
Slightly new setup for us this week, as you can see, on different screens in the same house. But here we go. Here we go.
Needed to be
Easter.
separated.
That's right. How was your Easter?
Loved it. I love Easter. For us, it's similar to Christmas. So yeah, good time.
It is a good time. It is a good time. Now, we have been having chats with clients all week about different things, mainly, I guess, the impacts of Easter and nutritional celebrations, reestablishing momentum with their goals. What sort of stuck out to you from your client catch-ups?
A lot of people, it's negative. It's negative. So I guess the fear going into it, so like having catch-ups with people prior to Easter Sunday, like what it was going to look like for them, what they could consume, the journey they were on, the expectation for that week. Um, yeah, a lot of questions, I guess, and doubt. What
Sure.
about you?
Similar, like I spoke to a lot of guys last week about, just having a little bit of a plan and something that you feel confident in as you head into it. Not like you have to just be, no eggs, no hot cross buns, no fun, but some kind of guiding principle or structure that you're going to carry into the weekend that's going to work for you, whether you're at home or away. I would say that the majority went quite well. I had a couple who felt as though it didn't quite go to plan. Totally okay. When does it ever? But definitely found value in doing metrics again quite quickly this week. And just to sort of, I guess, put their fears at ease as Easter being a big step back, because it's never the case. With everyone, measurements largely the same, slight spike on the scales, but we always expect that. So when they were kind of prepared for that heading into the weekend, it makes a big difference when you come out and it's just, okay, well, this is just what the data says, all good, and we're back into the swing and the routine. I think with most people who we chat to on the journey that they're on, celebrations like this always feel as though they come at the wrong time, because they've built momentum or they've sort of got the headspace where it's, I'm making progress, I want to keep it going. And then there's a birthday, a weekend away, Easter, Christmas, whatever it is. So
Yeah.
navigating that is often the more difficult part than it is actually just how many hot cross buns are you going to eat.
Hmm. I do love breaking it down with each person because obviously it varies person to person, and that's what people don't appreciate. We'll put these blanket rules out there in life, Christmas, Easter. It looks so different for everyone. Like what are your traditions? Like that's something I spoke about a lot this week. And in some cases, it might be that, families are forming their own traditions now. So, like, for example, you had your traditions as a kid that haven't necessarily carried into our household. We do different things with our family. Um, so what does it actually look like for them? Because a lot of people do kind of hold a loyalty to what they grew up with. And then when you start your own family and they don't necessarily align, both yours and your partners, it's like, well, what do you actually want to do for your family? That's an interesting one. Another big thing I did notice was, and I think a lot of people found this to be quite, I guess, positive. So come Christmas and Easter, they're kind of our two hardest times in terms of when we're nutritionally on a weight loss journey. They can be quite difficult. And one thing I did like to highlight with all of my guys is Easter does tend to be a lot shorter lived than Christmas. So more and more we're finding that that kind of Christmas period is longer and longer, whereas Easter is more concentrated. And like you said before, it's what you do all the time, right? So one day is not going to undo you. Whereas if we're looking at weeks of kind of prolonged nutrition challenges, that's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I think it's important to clarify what you said there as well is when you say Christmas is getting longer and longer, you normally mean before Christmas. Like
Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
starting their work parties and catch-ups late November, mid-November even.
Yep.
And then when we say it's a challenge, you're just faced with more circumstances where the choices are outside of your control.
Hmm.
Most people we speak to have a really good grasp on what they're doing on a Wednesday night, Thursday lunchtime, just the regular week to week, but then a social occasion, it's how do I navigate that while still, adhering to a little bit of a routine and some kind of structure that's going to get me closer to the results I want. But then when you've got meal after meal where it's work party into catch up with a friend, into this, into that, and all of a sudden you're starting to change the variables and limit choices, or things just aren't automatic. Like people tend to do well when it's just, well, every morning I have my overnight oats, so I don't even think about it. But then when you do have to think about it, it's like, okay, well, what do I do here? And you're spot on with Easter. The only typical challenge that people face is they get so much chocolate they can't possibly eat it in one day, and then we've got eggs in the fridge or the pantry for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's obviously more temptation around. I would say that typically Easter is of a lower nutritional quality than most people's Christmas and things like that, just because chocolate is, it's not the most nutritionally sound food. I don't think that's too controversial to say. Whereas people tend to have nice food at Christmas, but probably just in quantities that don't necessarily like serve them that well. I know
yeah,
that's certainly in our case, but the challenge for most people is kind of not letting, a few eggs and a hot cross bun cause a Sunday to become a Monday, to become a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then you're struggling for what was supposed to be a long weekend or a couple of days on the long weekend become a couple of weeks, and it just completely interrupts your momentum.
yeah,
So all the conversations I've been having this week are, okay, how can we quickly get back to what we normally do? And then just have a couple of eggs occasionally as a part of that. And what changes might we make to, I guess, ease that impact on the results?
yeah. We had a lovely conversation about, you know, kind of the negative chat around what should be a celebration. So, rather than going in with that negative mentality of, oh, what am I going to do? Eggs, hot cross buns, like that's part of it. Enjoy it. Let that be part of that occasion, but don't let that become the month.
Yeah.
So don't let that become the norm. And it's getting harder and harder because society really does work against us here. You know, hot cross buns are coming out earlier than ever. Easter eggs are coming out earlier than ever.
Yeah. Boxing Day.
And then the Easter eggs have gone on sale now. So everyone's like, oh, it's so cheap. Let's buy some more. Um, so all of these things play a massive role in obviously what we do in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of convenience about kind of having a bit of a healthy routine and structure at the moment when every signal you're getting from society and marketing is the other way. It does make it more challenging for sure. You do have to kind of row your boat against the tide a little bit in the modern world to kind of see some healthy progress because, yeah, our society is not geared up for that at this stage. But I guess that's a topic for another day. When it comes to, something that you touched on then, the celebration, embracing it, enjoying it, that's another conversation I've been having a lot is, and no one ever thinks of this, but if every time you have a celebration in the house, typically it involves some type of food, so for our guys, kids' birthdays, each other's birthdays, parents' birthdays, like religious celebrations, catch ups, it's always typically around some kind of food or drink. And if every time you have an occasion that is supposed to be fun, supposed to be something that you enjoy, then if it feels as though it's going to be a step back from the goals that you're trying to achieve, then how can you truly enjoy it? How can you, like actually embrace it for what it is without feeling a little pang of guilt or shame around the choice that, oh, I'm having some Elsa ice cream cake. This is not going to get me closer to my 5, 10, 20 kg goal. And not to harbor like a little bit of resentment for the occasion. And that's often more damaging than the actual cake itself, is the headspace that it can put people in.
Yeah.
And that just comes back to a strategy and education issue.
And it
You,
also depends on the person. One thing I love to ask them when we talk about occasions and, suboptimal choices in terms of the journey they're on, it's like, did you want it? Because I feel like we have this conversation all the time. Like sometimes people just engage in, eating something purely because it is offered for them. They don't feel like they can say no.
mm,
I've had people say they don't even like what is offered to them and they will still take that and eat that while they're on a weight loss journey.
yeah,
So always asking yourself, like, do I actually want that? Because if you do, there is absolutely a place for it in your diet and you can work around that.
Yeah.
But do you want it is the most important question.
I was listening to a podcast on human psychology because I'm a massive nerd. And they were talking about the difference between guilt and shame. And obviously in our brains we, reference it immediately towards nutrition and food and, the sphere in which we live. And they were saying that the difference between guilt and shame is guilt is when you break your own rules, and shame is when you break someone else's rules and you feel as though you've let them down. And typically the food guilt that comes with like having chocolate or having a hot cross bun when you hadn't planned it, just using Easter specific examples, that just always comes back to an issue with education and strategy. It's never that you've broken the rules or you've broken, the program structure. If that is the case, the program sucked. Like it wasn't supposed to be sustainable. It was a bullcrap set of guidelines and rules that someone thought would work for 100 people at one time, instead of taking the time to explore, as you said, well, what do you enjoy? Do you love hot cross buns? Here's how you might work it into your intake for the day. Should you choose to exercise that type of tactic or not? But it puts you in the driver's seat instead of feeling, ashamed that you've broken someone else's rules or guilt that you've broken your own. If you feel either of those two things about anything you've done over the past week, change the plan. Plan sucked. Plans.
That brings us into something else we're going to talk about, sustainability beyond programs. But before we do, maybe if we could leave everyone with some practical advice for the leftover chocolate that is hanging around the house. So the first question I always ask people is, what type of person are you? Okay, so like I know myself, I can have stuff around me in terms of my environment. Like I could have chocolate in the fridge for 6 months, right? And like that, I'm not going to grab an egg every time I go to the fridge, but that is me. However, let's compare me to you, Ben. Like, are you gonna keep chocolate in the fridge for 6 months?
I could keep it in the fridge for 6 months, but I couldn't have little bits of it all the time. So, like, if I have a bit, I'm having a lot. So, I would just make sure that I don't do that too often.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, we always ask people, what do you do? Like, what are
Mm,
your traits? Because there's different, obviously, tactics that you would use based on that answer.
mm. One of the things I speak about is, if it's out of sight, out of mind. So, whenever you open the fridge, if it's eye line, if it's the first thing you see, if it's really easy to grab, you will grab it. And this is just a small thing, and people go, oh, as if that'll work. It does work.
Does.
If you make it annoying to get it out, you are less likely to get it out. Like if you were trying to watch less TV and every time you watched TV, you had to pack it up and put it up in the cupboard, do you think you'd be likely to watch TV more or less if that was the tactic? People say, well, way less, because it's a pain in the ass to go up to the cupboard and get it and plug it all in. So it's the same with your eggs. Like put it up the back, put it behind stuff that's annoying to move. That way you'll only have it when you really want it, instead of just mindlessly walking over to the fridge, grabbing out a couple of hollow eggs and smashing them before you know what's going on. This
Yeah.
is the type of unsexy advice that no one will ever like. People who are struggling won't follow this, and people who are already in a good groove know this works. So it's
Yeah.
like success leaves clues. Make the hurdle to an unhealthy behavior, or a behavior that you're trying to perform less often, a little bit higher, and make the hurdle to a healthier behavior as low as you possibly can.
Yeah. I love that. Some really good advice.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Another thing we really like to encourage, especially with our kids. So a lot of the times when we are speaking to people along their journeys, the conversations very much lead into the family and what you can do. So again, teaching our kids things that will hold them in a good space for life. So our kids all have their own individual buckets left over
Yeah,
with all of their eggs, so they don't get to
heaps,
eat. Yeah,
heaps
they
of
don't they
eggs.
don't get to eat all their eggs at once. And kind of educating them on that over the years as they get older, the conversations change a little bit and they're a little bit different. But I'm actually finding it quite sweet this year. Them realizing, that it's not Easter eggs aren't fuel,
Yeah,
basically. Just making sure they got back to their usual balanced meals, and the Easter eggs are something we have after we're full at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um, so that's been really sweet, like watching them and then run to their bucket and have that little bit and be happy with that too.
Yeah. Even though I don't know if you've noticed, but every time I go into the pantry, Harry follows me and he's like, Dad, sneak me one, sneak me one. So he's he's the cheekiest to the three. Yeah, I mean, we normally have a block of chocolate open in the fridge or some kind of treat that we're just working our way through from something, any occasion, really, and we'll typically have it after dinner, after some fruit or something like that. And the Easter eggs have just replaced that.
Yeah. Yep. I also like the idea of, because they do have it in such of a abundance, when we have visitors over, like sharing that.
Mm,
So putting that out and sharing that, I find is a good one. Quite often with people that really struggle to have stuff in the house afterwards, they've had a good time and they do want to get back to that weight loss journey quite quickly. So that expectation, right? So are we expecting to maintain? Do you want to continue to, you know, eat a little bit more chocolate every day for the next couple of weeks? Or would you prefer to get back on that weight loss journey a little bit quicker, get your deficit a little bit higher, and see that weight loss result? What do you want more? That question is really, really important. Gifting is another really
cheat
good
code.
one.
Yeah, hell yeah. Just get
Yeah,
rid of them.
yeah. So obviously we don't, waste is big for a lot of people, us included. I'm not going to throw it in the bin.
Mm.
But gifting is a lovely way that you can reduce that temptation for yourself. And obviously the gift of gifting makes people feel good too.
Course, course, course. Now you touched on something, and we wanted to circle back. If anyone does have any questions about Easter, you guys know where to find us. Program sustainability beyond the time that you're in it. Now, we checked in with a client of ours who won our scholarship last year, which we often do a couple of times a year, and we give people the opportunity to win a full ride 12-week transformation with us, and that'll be opening up in the next week or so as well, actually. But we checked in with her. Now, she had lost, I think it was 8 to 9 kgs inside the program with us. She'd lost 5 before she started with us, and then she's lost another 5 since finishing with us. Now, I have explained that poorly, but it was basically 5 before she started, 8 or 9 inside the 12 weeks with us, and then another 5, which is a massive, I mean, those are life-changing results. To lose nearly 20 kgs since October last year, it was in the middle of October, I think, is absolutely amazing. But the part that we're most impressed with is kind of the 5 either side. So to come to a live event that we ran and to listen to, I guess, our philosophy and tactics and how we do it, how we implement it into busy people's lifestyles, and then to be able to do it herself, amazing. To then see results working with us in the one-to-one capacity, that's not as surprising based on the history of what we've been able to do with parents in our program. It's usually fairly guaranteed in that aspect that they will see results when they work with a coach one-to-one. That's not crazy. But then to be able to carry on with the education, the systems that we taught her, the strategies that we helped her with through a busy time of year as well, through Christmas and holidays, and typically a time where people would say that it is a little bit harder to stick to it, to then finish up her program. Was it February? Late February? Yeah, late February to now to be another 5 kgs down. That is the stuff that lights us up, because anyone can follow a 21-day, 28-day, 6 week. You guys know the challenges. You've seen the marketing. Like, we've all seen stuff, and people get results in those programs, no doubt, especially if they follow it properly. If you count your calories, if you do your macros, you will see results. However, if your results stop as soon as the program is done, or you don't have the tools, the education, or the strategy to be able to continue on past that, what is the point?
Well, that's the whole idea about, not the whole idea, but that's why our industry is so big, and everyone we speak to, pretty much everyone that comes to us has dieting experience. So that whole yo-yo. I do
Yeah.
something, it works, then I stop it, I gain the weight. So yeah, it really does bring us back to that sustainability piece and that toolkit that you can develop through coaching to then implement no matter what.
Yeah, people talk to us about, like I guess there's a lot of skepticism around um, nutrition coaching, specifically online coaching, and people have had promises made to them in the past about results that they will see and ways that they will follow. And it's just the level of skepticism and I guess assuredness that what you're going to do is going to work is extremely low at the moment, which is fine. And it's up to, I guess, good coaches with proper ethics to be able to adequately explain what they do, how it works, but also that, the best results that we show aren't typical for everyone, which is a massive part of it. And everyone has their own struggles and everyone has different things that they're working towards. And we can't guarantee that anyone who works with us will see the same progress. But you should be able to kind of take the tools, take the learnings, make sure that you're not just a soldier who can take orders and eat a certain way for a period of time. Lots of people can do that, but you actually become the master of your own journey so that you can then execute for the next 10, 20, 30 years. Like I use the analogy all the time of us very much being like a driving instructor. Is most people can get in the car and accelerate and brake, and then they may need a lesson or two to help them parallel park or to, navigate merging or whatever it is, any type of driving that you find specifically tough. And maybe there's some strategy around that. Like I know I was taught how to parallel park once and I still remember it to this day to like pull out to 30 degrees and the back window and all that stuff. Like there's a system behind it, but it's lasted me 15 years past the actual lesson, as it should. And so should any nutritional program that you do. You should understand the science and the fundamentals behind the changes that you're making. It's not just about your discipline and your willpower while you do it, or your motivation, or whatever other reason you feel like it didn't work for you. Is that I can understand the way my body is supposed to adapt when I execute this type of strategy so that I can then control it beyond the 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Crucial. We had another lady complete our program in the middle of winter last year, and we messaged her a few weeks ago, and she's ticked off another 10 kgs lost. That's great.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome. You shouldn't only see results when you work with a coach.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
should be able to set you up to be able to, be successful far beyond the time that you work in that one-to-one capacity with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep keep that frame of mind when you begin your own, I guess, type of journey is, will this last me beyond the period that I'm involved in the program?
Yeah. Speaking of, a lot of the conversations you've been having with potential clients, so people that are interested in nutrition coaching, they're saying there's a bit of lack of trust there, and a lot of confusion.
Oh my
But
God.
because of that, so like they've gone into programs before, and basically not seen the results that they were wanting to achieve.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, like to stand out, typically most people do their advertising on social media. The white pages aren't a thing anymore. To stand out on social media, you need to be extremely polarizing, or you need to be saying stuff that kind of grabs people's attention. And most of the time, people are packaging up a calorie deficit and high protein into a certain way that people haven't done before. And everyone would know the advertising if I meant, like the Amazonian superfruit that humans have only just discovered, and things like that, where it has to be new and it has to be like, oh, maybe this is the reason that I haven't been able to see progress before. And for common sense practitioners, it's like you need to make sure that you can get your message out there and that it's being heard. And some people are just, I mean, they're taking it way too far. And then normal people who are out there trying to find something to believe in, essentially, a philosophy that kind of vibes with them, or then, there needs to be a sense of relatability to the person who they want to work with. They've got their head on a swivel, like calories don't matter, but they do matter. And, like vegan is the way, but it's not. And it's like, you have to be carnivore. Like the extreme is what gets cut through.
We're too
But
vanilla. We're too
Yeah,
vanilla, Ben.
I
Shake it
know,
up.
but it's but like that extremity is causing mass confusion because there's
Mm.
no gray area in the middle. People are just abolishing the gray area and just going hardcore left or I mean we see it with politics as well. No one has a balanced take that gets 10 million views. Like it always has to be something crazy that, causes the virality. So just be skeptical is what I'm saying. So like I understand you are skeptical, continue to be skeptical. Because it's letting down more people than it's helping at the moment. Like the fitness and nutrition industry is full of people who want to help, but people who are also, I think, wary of paying the bills and they just go, well, stuff that I can't help anyone if I've got no clients. So I have to say outrageous stuff in order to kind of build up a bit of a business. I think that's where people get to. I think it's a shame. I feel sad when I speak to some people and I'm like, God, you are in knots, like just, not
Wow.
knowing which way to turn and feeling very helpless. Um, and, feeling let down, having made emotional decisions based on results that they've been promised in the past. And I think it's a shame.
Yeah, so we've obviously been talking a lot in nutrition world. Let's move it over to fitness because it does, like you said, it's in both, so
Yeah.
fitness and
Oh, for
nutrition.
sure.
And I do feel like that's why a lot of people, when they come into the busy phase of parenthood in life, when they've got young children, that's when they struggle a lot to fit in exercise and they feel like it's something they simply can't do and they simply stop doing it.
Yeah. No, this is for two reasons as well. Like, whenever our I guess our lifestyle or our logistics don't allow us to perform something a certain way, that's kind of human nature to need to do it that way. Like, I use the example, as soon as I tear a hamstring, it's like, geez, I'd love to go for a run. It's like, mate, you haven't run in 2 years. Like, what are you worried about? So, as soon as you have a young kid and you want to start to feel more comfortable in your body and your skin again, it's like, well, I used to go to the gym, but now I can't go to the gym. So all I can think about is needing to go to the gym again. When you've got some space in your living room, you've got a floor, there's no reason you can't do some push-ups, some planks, some squats there, but it's just not the same because it's not going to be perfect. And it's the exact same type of issue that we see with nutrition where, polarizing has cut through. So this is the perfect way to train and everything else sucks. So if you can't do it the perfect way, then don't bother doing it at all. And
Yeah.
people feel really disillusioned about the effectiveness of a 20-minute home strength workout when in actual fact that's perfect for where they are at the moment.
Spot on, given all their challenges, limitations, whatever it may be. Everyone's different in terms of how their household runs, whether they've got young children at home, school, drop-offs, pickups, extracurricular, space. There is no reason why every single person in this world should not have movement in their lives. It just looks different for them.
Yeah, and these come in phases. Like people often attach a lot of kind of, I would say like long-termism or certainty into what they're doing this week. So it's like if I start this, then this is what I'm doing this week. And it's like this may be the best way to train for you at this current stage of life for the next 6 months. But then it'll be fine to branch out into something else. Um, no different to how you might approach, a rehab from an injury. It's like, yeah, deadlifts would be great, but let's start off with some glute bridges because we need to rebuild your strength and your routine. If you think about your actual strategy and routine along a similar way, well, then you can start to build in progressions instead of just jumping straight to perfect every time. And if you can't do perfect, why bother?
Mhm. And people think it's the same thing. So, like their definition of perfect is going to the gym for 1 hour.
Yeah,
Who said that? Who said that's a perfect fitness regime? 3 times a week. Who said that?
I have
I
at
don't.
one stage, I'm sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it does. It looks so different depending on what is going on in your life. I have had some beautiful moments with my children of late, that I just think, oh my gosh, it's so different to what it was.
Our children.
Our children. Did I say my?
Yeah,
Well, they're mine and
cool.
yours.
Cool.
All
Yeah,
right.
nice one.
But the things I'm doing with the kids now are so different to when, they were in prams, and I was finding it a lot harder to get kind of a minute to myself. I was stopping workouts to breastfeed and settle kids. Now I've got, a 14-year-old taking me for a run, testing my pace out, and a little girl that's constantly bugging me to take her for a bike ride. And now Harry is really into some pull-ups. So he keeps me on the bar a lot more than I probably would be as well. So it does change a lot. But at that time when the kids were younger, I was thinking, oh my goodness, like this is hard.
Oh
This
yeah, I used to hate training with them.
it changes so
Yeah,
often. But yeah, again, having that toolbox and being able to manipulate based on your phase of life is key because it
yeah.
does change and it does get easier and you'll enjoy different things about different phases.
No, there's no doubt that we are kind of enjoying some of the fruits of efforts in the past to, involve them in movement and get them used to it being a day-to-day part of their lives and hoping that they enjoy it. I remember when William, who's now 14, when he was 4 and or maybe even younger, when did we open the gym? When he was 3, I think maybe.
Yeah,
I was worried he was going to hate it because he was going to be
yeah,
there
you
all,
were.
because he was going to be there all the time. And I'm like, oh, like, is this going to turn him off just movement? Is he going to hate coming back to the gym with us every day after kinder, every day before kinder, when you're on the floor all the time? And no, he loves it. And then even our younger two as well. Harry less so because he didn't spend as much time in the gym as the other two, but they all just enjoy moving their bodies and they've found different ways to kind of exercise that in a way that's not boring. If
Yeah,
we say, let's go for a walk, well, obviously that sucks. No kid wants to go for a walk. But if you say, let's go down to the crossings, we're lucky enough to be near parklands, that still obviously involves a walk, or a ride, but there's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow there.
yeah,
They both do gymnastics. They love it. They now do gymnastics on our pull-up bar, and we're having to tell them to get out of the way so we can do a set. Like it's something that was hard at the start. And I know a lot of people use exercise as that kind of opportunity to get to themselves or that time that they need. And I hear that. I'm the same. But it doesn't mean that you need to be all or nothing one or the other way. Like if you exercise 3 to 4 times a week or twice, however many times it is, three is not perfect, as you've just pointed out. But one of them you might exercise at home and get the kids involved for 10 or 15,
yeah,
instead of just slapping them on a screen because it's probably just not the outcome that you're looking for in the long term. And it's very
yeah.
easy to get caught up in the day to day and not kind of think about the impact that our actions might be having beyond that time. And you've always had a really good perspective on this because I've always been like, oh, just get them out before I lose my temper. But yeah, I'm glad we've done it now, but it wasn't always easy to get here. I know everyone always talks about the destination. I don't think enough people shine enough of a light on sometimes how challenging the journey can be, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah. So basically everything nutrition and fitness, just having that flexibility. So obviously need the knowledge, uh, having someone to collaborate, so a coach to work, like we workshop stuff. Every conversation we're having with people, we are workshopping.
It's
We
very rare that,
need,
yeah. Oh, sorry to interrupt, but it's very rare that we, on a check-in would just say, here's what you need to do, go do it. Like
absolutely.
the only time that may actually happen is like it's like, so here's the science, here's what we need to implement, like this is what we have to do, but then the way it looks in your day-to-day routine is always requires collaboration. And how would this work? Have you got time here? Do you not have time there? What's a good day? Like all sorts of stuff like that. Otherwise, soldiers, not generals, is
Yeah,
where we'll end
absolutely.
up.
So wrapping it all up, we've got the knowledge, we've got the collaboration, then we've got implementation and accountability. Um,
That's the
and
secret sauce.
if you can get under your belt some quality time with a coach, to then be able to take this and move forward through life and be able to adapt that flexibility and really use that toolbox, then that's when you're going to see the sustainable long-term results.
100%. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this bad boy
No,
up? All
no.
good. Yeah, let's hope this audio doesn't absolutely stink with our new testing before we redo it.